What's up, everybody? Well, this might be one of the most interesting locations where we've ever been to start a video. This is Detroit Metro Airport. Why are we here? Well, we're traveling all the way to Denmark to visit TrackMan headquarters. So I was fortunate enough to get this invite out to their all new headquarters, and I've got all kinds of things lined up for you guys for this video, so make sure you stay tuned for the whole thing. We're gonna take a first look at the all new Virtual Golf 3. So many people, when I gave that little kind of preview that we saw at the PGA merchandise show this past year, saw the enhanced graphics and everything when I was talking to Jacob Monk. Well, we actually get to go into their studio and play on the new software. So we're gonna see that in action. On top of that, I've got some interviews lined up with leadership and some very interesting questions I think that you guys will be interested in. So I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can kind of pry some information out of these guys to share with you guys in the channel. And then, you know, maybe some behind the scenes looks at what goes on at TrackMan headquarters. I mean, I'm really interested. I honestly feel honored and I'm humbled that they invited me out to the headquarters. I wanna share that experience with you guys, so I figured why wouldn't we start at the airport and kind of just go along the whole journey with you here in the channel. So let's go ahead and go. Well guys, welcome to TrackMan headquarters. Coming from Detroit all the way here to Denmark was quite the journey. And you know, walking up to this facility, Klaus, I want to thank you for inviting me. When I got the invite, it was just kind of like I was honored, humbled, and excited to see myself what kind of goes behind the scenes, the people here. Obviously, your brand new facility, which is really remarkable. So congratulations on that. But you know, I have a couple questions that I thought that would be awesome that we could share with the viewers, that you could really kind of go back in history from, and then kind of what is in the future for TrackMan. So the first one is kind of like a two-part question. I'd love viewers to hear about when you first introduced the TrackMan technology to like golf pros and instructors and what their reaction was. And then the second part is kind of how that led to, you know, you guys' involvement in the PGA Tour and how you see TrackMan on TV now and everything. So, but I'd love to hear that initial reaction when you said data. And no golfer was thinking data back then, 20 years ago.
That's perfectly true. And first of all, thank you for coming. You know, very pleased to have you here. Well, yeah, 21 years back in time, or let's say, you know, took a couple of years before we had something to show and talk about. But it might be actually difficult for some of the younger people to understand that there was a time before data. Because people who are, you know, 20, 30, even 40 years today, they've grown up with, you know, having data available. But there was a time before data. So I mean, I was hitting tens of thousands of golf balls when I was playing a serious golf. And there was nothing out there. I mean, you saw the ball go right, you saw the ball go left, high, low, and that was it. And we all had theories about, you know, why, but there was no data.
Yeah.
So that was the question we asked ourselves: if it was possible to get some data, you know, that would be more efficient and more fun to practice. So coming to your question, so we had to learn. I mean, we didn't know what a good spin rate was before we started measuring on the best players in the world. We had to find out, you know, what is a good spin rate, what is the right launch angle, and there was a lot of also club data where we simply had to basically write the vocabulary. I mean, to define things so we all understand what is attack angle, what is swing plane, what is club path, what is, you know, club face to path and so on. We had to define all those things so that we were talking the same language. And then getting out there in the beginning, if we take the touring pros, the best players in the world, honestly speaking, they knew very little.
I assumed, I mean, because I know as a golfer myself, I'm not saying I'm on any pro level by any means, but it's just that wasn't even in your head at all.
Not at all. No. And the great thing is when you get out there today and you talk to the pros coming right out of college, they know everything. Yeah. Okay, so there's a huge difference. So we had to go out there and ask them to hit some shots and give them some data, and yeah, it took a while before they, you know, embraced the technology. But yeah, there was some of them were brave and first movers, and started, you know, to work with us. And then of course it gradually became more popular, and now they all use it.
Yeah, that's what I find funny is like everyone's using data, and I just assumed 20 years ago people were reluctant, and they were just like, that's crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah,
golf is a game of feel.
Yeah,
I don't need data.
Exactly.
Don't confuse me with it.
And now everyone's embracing it. So if you don't mind, just kind of peel back a little bit of how you guys got into the PGA Tour and kind of where that's going. If you see more possibilities and people are going to see this technology, tied into broadcast. I mean, I've seen it evolve a lot already, and I can only imagine where it's going. I think it's going to make golf interesting to watch on TV, or more interesting.
Sure. We had a long relationship with the PGA Tour. I remember the first time we visited them, I think it was in 2005.
Oh, wow.
And we actually made the first agreement with the PGA Tour in 2005. Then it was 5-year agreements, and we renewed them and renewed them and renewed them. So ever since 2005, we worked with the PGA Tour. And all the time developing the product in collaboration with the PGA Tour, because they have lots of good ideas and wishes to what they want to see, and so it's an iterative process to move the product forward, and it will keep. I mean, there'll be new things coming up, but again, today, if you see a shot from behind and you don't see the tracer, somehow you feel that you're missing something. You're sitting there waiting, will there be a tracer or will there not? But in the old days, you were lucky if you had the ball in the camera against the blue sky, and
even today you'll see a camera kind of astray looking for the ball.
Exactly.
So it's changed everything. Really, well, that's cool. I'm glad to see that kind of has a future of growth and where it's going. And kind of speaking on that, it seems that you guys keep pushing the boundaries both indoor and outdoor, which is awesome. I love it when a company doesn't just set it and forget it. And talking, with everyone here, it sure seems like every day it's like someone's looking for the next thing, which I love. But you guys do some stuff outside of golf that I at least wanted to let viewers understand. So outside of golf, what all are you involved in?
Before I talk to that, let me just briefly say, yes, there's a lot more to come in golf.
Yeah.
What you've seen today, I mean, we have 250 engineers and software developers in this house, in this building, which I think is probably the biggest technology force in golf. Okay,
it's huge,
and we're all passionate about it, and we have tons of ideas. It's a question about selecting what to do, not to defocus. But there's a lot more to come. I can promise you, there's a lot more to come. Other sports, I mean, in 2008-9, people came to us in US and said, "You guys can track a golf ball. Can you also track a baseball?" And knowing Frederick and I'm sure you know the answer. Frederick will say, yes, at least we will try, yeah?
Yeah.
By the way, we thought it was a lot easier than it was. So we started out basically placing a TrackMan golf radar behind a baseball player, and that didn't work, okay? So there was special development that had to take place. Also because the situation is so different in baseball. You're not behind a ball that, lies on a tee. You have to be, in order to track during a game, you have to be, away from the action. You can't sit behind the umpire because you can't see anything. So you have to get up behind. So we are 70 meters up or 50 meters up, basically where the press is sitting, looking down, so we can see the full pitch, and we can, by the way, see the whole lane, the whole field. So that was a completely different product, sitting up there. And where are we today? We are in almost every stadium in the world where professional baseball is being played.
Really?
In US, major, minor league, all the different levels of play in US, and the same in Korea, the same in Japan, also in many universities and colleges in US, where we track all the young people. I think this year actually, I think when the draft was done, it's very much based on TrackMan data these days. So in the old days, people were just drafted because they were, looking good and so on. But today they're drafted based on data. I think that, it was 98% of the 600 drafts or something like that were picked based on, we had, the TrackMan data on them. So that was part of the
Why not use it? It's there.
Exactly, yeah.
I'm glad I asked that. I mean, I knew you guys were involved in that space. I figured why not share with viewers a little bit about it.
We do a little bit in what we call American football as well, and in soccer, as we call it in Europe. But that's another story. We work with a couple of NFL teams and some universities and colleges as well, especially with the kicker.
Wow, yeah. I gotta keep on the golf track, but I'm interested to learn more about that. I mean, that's fascinating. So You know, another kind of a two-part question, but you know, I see the growth in like commercial facilities. I think that it's pretty amazing to see it. I mean, I have TrackMan ranges, multiple ones around me, you know, personally, and they seem to be popping up all over the place. And then I also just see indoor golf just kind of like growing in the record number of rounds. Do you see a way of kind of like tying all that together on what the experience people are going to have, you know, when they go to a TrackMan facility, and not only that, but like the competition level there where it's going to go inside? I mean, you guys kind of started really the first one that I know about with a real competition with like the Next Tour, and I just think that there has to be a kind of a lot, you know, to come.
I mean, first of all, if we start with indoor golf, I mean, indoor golf is growing fast.
Yeah.
It's the fastest growing segment, I think, in golf today. And there's a lot of good reasons for that. You can play all year round. I mean, in Denmark, normally you can play 6 months. Now you can basically play 12 months. You know, it doesn't take as long. You can do it in the cities and so on. It's somehow less intimidating to stand in indoor bay instead of being on a golf course where people know how to dress and speak the language and so on. Maybe an easier way to get started. So indoor golf is growing, and it will, you know, keep on growing, I think, for the next many years. And another reason why it's growing is that it's fun and it's good quality today. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, to be honest, you know, I didn't want to spend time in a simulator, and you know, people in the company actually had to convince me that we should go that route. But today, if we have these 3 or 4 meters of ball flight, or with the TrackMan IO, you know, just the half 1 meter of ball flight, we know exactly what that ball would have done had it been in an outdoor environment, and you could then apply wind and temperature and humidity and elevation or whatever would impact the golf shot, and we can tell you exactly where that golf ball will go on any golf course in the world. And that's the second part. I mean, the golf courses today, when you create them, are so beautiful. I mean that when you have a picture and half of the golf course is a photo and the other half is a rendering, honestly, it's difficult to pick,
so
it's difficult to pick the right one. So I think indoor golf is growing. The fact that you know, we have more and more bays out there, more and more centers, more and more, you know, private people having their own simulator, means that now we have, you know, tens of thousands of units out there where people can compete. I mean, we connect these bays with each other. You know, I can be in Denmark, I can challenge you in New York. You know, we can talk, we can see each other. We can play tournaments. You talk about Next Golf Tour.
Yeah.
Yes, we had, you know, 1,000 people competing for, you know, $200,000, you know, week after week.
There was over 1,000 players in that, huh? I didn't know that.
There was 1,500 individuals participating in the 6 windows we had.
Okay.
The maximum in each tournament was 1,000.
Okay.
But 1,500, you know, unique individuals participated over the season.
Yeah.
They played for, I think, 1.234 million dollars over those weeks. The winner took $90,000, plus got a wild card to the European Tour and 3 wild cards.
I forgot about that.
3 cards to the Challenge Tour. He just played and he did extremely well. So that was fun. He was here saying hello to us on his way to play these events. But the fact that the players who participate in the Next Golf Tour are all, you know, professional players. They're not at, you know, well, there was somebody from actually, we had both PGA Tour players and LPGA Tour players, so they don't get any better. But having said that, the content is really developed for, you can say, mini tour players and this next generation of players who have an extremely hard time, you know, making a living from golf, but are still great golfers. Yeah. We want to create a chance for them to get onto a new stage. Yeah. And the fact that they're willing to compete and play for money proves to us that the technology is good, because you wouldn't do that if it wasn't fair and
they put money on the line.
Exactly.
Yeah. Money, Tesla, and everything.
It's the best proof you can get. So we'll continue doing that. Season 3 will start in November. We have changed the concept a little bit. We have some thoughts where the concept should go long term. But we'll hang in there and see if we can create the biggest professional golf tour in the world. So
that was kind of like the follow up to that question is what's the future? So I mean, yeah, I can see it. I really can see like an indoor tour. you know. And I mean, that don't get me wrong, the next tour is that, but
Yeah,
to see that it was successful.
We can tweak the concept a little bit and do something like what you're saying there. You could also think about, you know, formats where you have teams playing against each other and so on.
Yeah,
you can have a Korean team, a Japanese team, several US teams, and so on. You can compete. You might not necessarily have to be in the same room, but you can somehow, compete. Online. We'll see where that will go. But I think there's an interesting future for us all out there.
Yeah, it changes everything when the logistics are just no longer flying everywhere.
Exactly.
I mean, that's unbelievable. And the doors opening to, you know, someone that has a dream that can't go around and play a bunch of mini tours to try to get there.
Exactly.
So, no, that's really cool. Here's an interesting one that I thought that the viewers would really like to hear more about. I mean, and I was kind of, you know, putting this through my own thought process, but I mean, between the PGA Tour, between TrackMan Range, between indoor rounds and everything else in between, I would assume you guys have just a massive amount of data. And so I'm just kind of wondering if you see possibilities of maybe sharing some of that data, whether it be pro data with amateurs so they could benchmark themselves, or even as far as, like, I had a video on the channel that I think some people probably have seen, that I played against a scratch golfer in a ghost round. So as I was playing, I was thinking, I mean, this would be amazing if you could, like, pick a pro, go out to that tour facility and play against his, you know, famous round, you know, or something like that. I mean, do you guys see that kind of being something?
Definitely. I think you're spot on. I mean, that's all possible. By the way, I mean, you know, publishing pro data we already do. So if you want to compare yourself to the pros, you know, basically data point by data point. I mean, how fast are these guys swinging the club? I mean, how do they deliver the club and so on? That's all available. I mean, that's available online and so on. You can see that. But the thing about, you know, ghost rounds that you talk about, being able in a simulator to play against, you know, Roy McIlroy or whoever.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, that's definitely something that will I think we will see in the future.
Yeah, that would be amazing. And then hopefully maybe even seeing that individual shot data that you're playing against.
Exactly.
You know, how did he spin that wedge up there?
Exactly.
You know, well, there's the data on how he did it.
Exactly.
As I was playing that ghost round, it was amazing to kind of think of all that. So thank you for sharing that. So, I mean, last but not least, I mean, learning about TrackMan's history, watching the timeline myself, you know, being a user of, you know, TrackMan 4 and IO and all the various software and everything, it's pretty cool to watch you guys and the way you've grown rapidly. I mean, this headquarters, you know, we're going to show you guys a bunch of footage. You've probably already seen some, but it employs 750 people, you want to say?
Yeah.
I mean, that's big. I don't know if a lot of people would understand that's that big. So everything's growing rapidly. Where do you see TrackMan's growth that we'll see in the near future? Like, where are those big opportunities that you see the company going?
I mean, first of all, the opportunities that is right in front of us is still indoor golf growing fast.
Huge.
As you said, you know, driving ranges getting technology. The good thing about both indoor golf and driving ranges getting technology is the fact that for the first time, you don't have to buy your own personal device. You can go somewhere and get access to technology. I mean, you can go to an indoor center and this whole world is open to you. You can go to a range and this whole, technology is open to you. You don't have to buy your own units. So that's point one. That will keep growing. I mean, there's so many ranges out there without technology today. There's so many indoor centers still to open. So that will grow. But I can promise you that these bright people that we have around us here, I mean, they're already working on next things to come, and we have thousands of ideas. It's a question about, again, you know, keep focus. So
probably tough to keep focused.
We know what the next product life cycle will be.
Good. I appreciate that. I mean, I know that I get to spend a lot of time with everybody here in the building. So thank you for your time. I mean, that was very enjoyable, and I look forward to seeing, you know, everything that TrackMan has to bring in the future.
Thank you very much, and once again, thanks for taking the time.
My pleasure.
To see us. Yeah.
All right, guys. So a really special opportunity sitting here with Fredrik Tuxen, Chief Technology Officer for TrackMan Golf, and I should say TrackMan as a whole, not just golf, right?
That's true. Yeah, we do other things also.
Yeah. I want to first, I think, thank you. And I think I can speak on behalf of a lot of people, you know, for a man that went from rockets to now tracking golf balls and baseballs alike and other things. I think I can speak on behalf of a lot of people that we appreciate what you've done and it brought to the industry. So
thank you.
Appreciate you having me here. You know, obviously just incredible all around. So a few questions for you, if you don't mind. I think it'll be great for the audience just to kind of not only hear a first perspective right from you, but also behind the scenes that we're going to show them here in just a few minutes. So that'd be great. I remember a while ago, and I don't know if it was a video I was watching or someone was saying that I think TrackMan, you know, designs and manufactures all of the hardware for your components here in-house. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. I mean, we do everything in-house. I mean, we do our own, all our own hardware, the mic rays for the radars, the optics for the cameras, the IR lighting, which we have also gotten into, all the you know, PCB boards that's necessary to make a unit. We make all the software also, so that's from small microcontrollers to embedded Linux to tracking whether it runs on the Linux or it runs, you know, on the PC, apps on all kind of operating systems, cloud, backend. So I mean that's actually what makes it fun, because when you do everything yourself, I mean that's I have this great belief by myself is, I mean, when you do everything yourself, you're not doing compromises because you can do everything. You're not dependent on somebody delivering a certain service and then you can't do anything more because you can't get behind that wall. So
true.
But by doing everything yourself, we are sort of we can do everything we can imagine. Only laws of physics sets the boundaries what we can do. Which a phrase I often use, by the way, to my employees.
Wow. I love that. I mean, that, yeah, it gives you total control. It's only one person you can blame, and that's yourself, right? Yeah. I mean, but the total control aspect, I mean, is just huge. I didn't know it went that deep. I just knew that I remember reading or hearing that it was all in-house. That's just awesome. One thing that, you know, I'm a new user of the TrackMan IO.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that, you know, really intrigued me was how I was told that the camera in the IO is doing off-board processing. So I thought that's really interesting to kind of hear that it's kind of unlocked, and who knows where it can go in the future, where as more GPUs, it become more powerful and things. But at the same time, that it's a camera and a radar unit, which I even myself didn't know at first. And then I was told, and I was like, oh, so it has a radar inside of it. So can you explain to the viewers why, like, you know, why camera? I think that we kind of know that, you know, where you've gone. I talked about that in the channel, but why radar more likely? That some people still don't know today that it has a radar inside. And it looks like you have some goodies here you could even show everybody.
I actually do have some goodies, so we can maybe bring this up. First of all, this is the TrackMan IO you're referring to, where you can say you can split the unit in half, and the upper part here, you see there's a huge camera here. There is in fact two, because there's an additional camera here, which is facing the screen, which is, by the way, solely used for aligning the target line for every time you use the IO, because maybe the unit may be less likely shifted slightly, but maybe the projector shifted slightly. And we want to make sure that, you know, the aim point you have on the screen is what is being referred in the tracking as being also 0.
Yeah, it's a nice feature. It's so easy to use.
So that's very keen for us. But then you have the entire lower part here, which actually is the radar. But maybe before, and I'll actually take off the lid of these so you can see a little bit of the inside also. But before, I mean, TrackMan is by now 28 years old. So we've been 21 years at this. And initially, we all TrackMan units have had radar and camera. So we're just continuing that path. Where maybe in the beginning we used, it was for outdoor tracking, the entire ball flight. We always said, you know, we don't want to extrapolate or anything like this. We want to measure what really happens, so we're not tied into algorithms and assumptions done by some engineers that maybe know, but maybe do not know what's going on.
Sure.
And also making sure that if this is going to satisfy the most, you know, advanced players in the game, equipment manufacturers and so on, they cannot be restricted by models or assumptions. They have to know what's going on. So that's why we chose the radar. And as you said, the intro, I used to do that before founding TrackMan, measuring on missiles and artillery bullets and things like that. And the radar has the benefit that it doesn't need, it can be works in the sun, bright sunlight. It can be in the dark. It can be snowing. It can be raining. I mean, this is the preferred technology for military. It's super robust and so on. You can track a golf ball as far as you can hit it, so plus 350 yards. So in that way, it's extremely well suited, especially I would say for the outdoor environment.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then optically tracking can also do a lot of things because, and especially with the advances that has happened with camera technology and also the algorithms, I would say that is now available for detecting things in images in intelligent ways. So with a camera, you can actually get pixel accurate. You can in fact get sub-pixel accurate. The only disadvantage with cameras is that you need light. Again, if you are in the outdoor and so on, maybe you have enough light, maybe you don't.
So true.
And you cannot sort of fire out, big flashlights because some will not appreciate that.
Unrealistic.
Yeah, unrealistic. So it's much more for those things that happens close to you. So when we set out to do the TrackMan IO, which is indoor optimized, what we really were looking at was how can we take away all of the limiting factors that are both using a TrackMan 4 as we have it in the background, indoors, and other technologies. And one of them is the space constraints. We really wanted to get down to a unit where you can actually, if you can swing a golf club, you can track exactly what goes on.
All the people I talk to, space is like number one.
It is number one. I mean, and then do that without compromising anything on the accuracy. Now, so what we do with the TrackMan IO, which is actually following the same principle as we have done with the TrackMan 4, is do what we call optically enhanced radar tracking. So it's actually something we have a patent on, but how we are basically using the camera to measure angles. When you see an image, you basically are seeing a 2D image being reflected into the image plane. So you can determine accurately where they are positioned. If you calibrated the pixels, you will know exactly at what angle they are located in the image. But the depth information you do not have. So if you're only using camera technology, the only way you can do that is by using what's called stereoscopic or multi-view camera. So you have to space out the distance between the cameras. But that produces the issue that it takes up more space. And again, if you want to put this in everywhere, that's sometimes is not ideal. On the other hand, the radar, what you can do with radar is you can measure, and we're talking Doppler radar here, you can measure speed extremely accurately, and you can measure distance exactly, super accurately. And that means by combining the angular information with the depth information from the radar, you get a three-dimensional trajectory of both the club and the ball. So if we look a little bit in the inside here, what it looks like if you take off the lid. So this is a TrackMan IO, how it looks like in the inside. And I actually I've taken out now, this is the big tracking camera that's sitting here. So what you're seeing here is, and again, everything made in-house. We designed everything you see here ourselves. So this is a LED that flashes together with this tracking camera. And then you have the radar sitting here, which is transmitting at 24 gigahertz. We have to comply with FCC and CE regulations and so on. So it's an extremely low amount of power. But again, by combining the range information from the radar with the image tracking of both the club and the ball, then we get sort of the best of both worlds. And we keep the unit being in a small unit. And that actually is very, very important also, because the relative alignment of these things are super important. That's basically the internal calibration. If that's off, your accuracy will suffer. And if you got two cameras that are sitting, 4 feet apart, it takes extremely little twisting or bending because of temperature, drift, or whatever to actually skew that calibration.
Interesting.
So that's actually the reason why we ended up like this. We're not married to one particular technology. We'll always, for the purpose, use whatever is the most ideal for the application. And there's no doubt in our minds that this combined optical tracking and radar tracking is the right choice here.
I love that. I mean, I have heard over the years, how radar measures speed so well. Ball speed. Yeah. You have little tiny devices and stuff that can even do decent with ball speed. So that makes total sense. And I honestly, before you answer that, thought that it was a little more separated. I didn't realize you were still combining all that to kind of get the most out of it. So that's really cool. And I appreciate you kind of going under the covers here.
Under the hood.
Yeah, under the hood and showing everybody, what's inside. That's just awesome. And once again, that it's all in-house is just fascinating. Yeah. And you have control, like you said, once again. I mean, to make an adjustment or anything, that's just great. Not to move on from I/O, but, as someone that has I/O and TrackMan 4, I'm an avid user of the iOS. Mm-hmm. I was actually just doing a little video and I showed some people, some like cloud things and everything. And I thought in my head, I'm like, where is the possibilities of iOS going? As a guy that has a TrackMan 4 in his hand, do you guys see a lot of future development with where you aren't using a laptop or desktop and you can get real powerful stuff?
I mean, there is a short answer is yes, because I mean, even though the indoor is taking off like crazy these years, this is for sure a very, very interesting market and usage. So that's also why we did the I/O. But having the ability to also record data when you are out on the range or you are on your own and have the mobility, that is definitely not going away. So we are continuously investing resources in creating, new applications, improving accuracy, adding new features to our existing TrackMan 4 as we have here in the background. And who knows? We have a TrackMan 1, we had a TrackMan 2, we had a TrackMan 3, we actually had a TrackMan 3E also. And
I remember that. Yeah.
So is there at some point going to be a successor to the TrackMan 4? I think that would be a reason to believe that that's going to happen at some point, because again, we are always trying to push the limits of what we're doing now. I'm not satisfied where we are. I'm not satisfied with how, even though the TrackMan 4 is great, the I/O is great, there's still things we can do better. And there's still things where I have a sort of a list of, I call TrackMan pain points of using the TrackMan. I want to remove those.
That's awesome.
And
are those personal as you as a user?
Yeah, I definitely use our own products. Yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
I like that.
I mean, I'm frustrated. Frustrated is maybe exaggerating a little bit. I have to tell the system I'm the one hitting the shot. I have to hit. What club am I using? For my statistics, that's hugely important, and so on. So I mean, there's a number of things like this that I would like. Why? I mean, we have technology is there now. We can solve those things. So that's what keeps me still awake up at night and keeps my tracking people and hardware people and all that busy, which is we are surrounded by here. So
very busy.
If you're up to it, we can take a look a little bit under the hood of the things they are looking at when we're trying to improve the things that we are doing today. If we go next door,
I promised them some behind the scenes, so I'd love to. Thank you. All right, guys, we're in a space here that I think is going right over my head, but it's exciting to look at. And Fredrik, I just appreciate you, bringing us behind the scenes to show the viewers. But I'm going to hand it over to you to explain exactly what we're seeing here.
Yeah, so what we're seeing here is basically what happens in a split second when you hit a shot in front of or underneath a TrackMan I/O, the raw data how it's being treated and how it outputs the data. So actually, if you look at the screen here, and that's by the way one of the unique things that we have here is that on a TrackMan we're always storing the raw data, because you know what? Sometimes we're not satisfied with the tracking we did. We get feedback from customers, or we found it in our own testing, and we want that raw data so we can change our tracking and improve and verify that we're actually
are now tracking it as we would like to do.
I love that.
So being able to store the raw data I almost contributed a lot of it to the success we've had in the capability to do that. So what you see here is actually, and Jesper, you can maybe show the cursor there. So the top one there, that's the high-speed video of the club approaching the ball. So maybe if you can go 3 frames there, so there you see the impact, and then we zoom in on the ball, as you see there. So that's in real time, frame by frame. You're basically adjusting the crop, so we are following the ball, and we are seeing the club. And then beneath here is a very special thing. We call that a spectrogram. That's the radar data, which is on the x-axis is time, and on the y-axis is the speed. And yes, you have to understand it. I've seen this a few times, but what you see, this is actually impact that takes place right here.
Okay.
And then this upper part here, that's the club prior to impact. So this gives us the speed relative to the I/O of the club head. And since we've got multiple receivers, we can tell the distance of the club head from when we see these. When I see those dots being tracked, I know it's good.
Wow.
And then you see the magenta points here. That's actually when we are tracking the ball. So that's the speed of the ball. And again, by having the multiple receivers, we can determine the absolute distance to the ball. So this is how we're getting the depth information. And then we're combining that with the top one here, which is the center of the ball, which gives us the angular position. And then in addition to this, you can see there are some arrows here.
Yeah.
That's actually, and this green line here, that's actually the 3D spin, which we are determining actually solely on the camera.
Okay.
The TrackMan 4, we are using the radar to determine that. That's actually what gives us state-of-the-art accuracy. We're talking something about 10, 15 RPM of accuracy on the TrackMan 4. We're just below 100 RPM on the I/O.
That's amazing. And so I'm looking at, the colors and everything down here.
Mm-hmm.
So is that almost always grabbing information and then you just know from the moment of impact where it separates, and that's how you're getting that kind of defined, here's the club coming in and then here's the ball taking off? I mean, I don't even know how radar works. So, I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah, well, one of the things you can, this is a Doppler radar, so it's the same thing when you have an ambulance approaching you with a siren, so it says beep, 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 beep.
Yep.
And that means it shifts its frequency relative to you as a listener because it moves. Same thing happens with a radar, just both in the transmit direction and the receiver direction. So that means everything that moves creates a Doppler shift.
Wow.
And that's how we are separating things. So we can track multiple objects as long as they have different speed relative to the radar.
It's incredible.
So and then there's a lot of details in how you do this, which we have taken us years to perfect, and we're still perfecting.
Thank you for, kind of opening the curtains and showing the viewers. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys appreciate it. This is the type of stuff you don't get to see every day, and I surely appreciate it because you're playing golf on it all the time, and now you kind of have this like visualization of what's going on in the background. It's kind of mind-blowing. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well, we find ourselves in the basement of TrackMan headquarters. I'm here with Alperen, I'm here with Jacob, and we're standing in front of a custom-built TrackMan I/O simulator. I'll tell you what, amazing what they've done with this facility and all parts that we've seen. But we're standing in front of definitely one of the highlights that I'm sure many people want to see, Virtual Golf 3. So first off, why don't you guys just give yourself a little introduction. Alperen, what's your title here with TrackMan?
I'm a technical artist. To summarize it, I'm the bridge between the arts and the engine team.
Okay, great. Jacob?
My role is head of product for anything indoor golf.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of you viewers have seen our discussions with Jacob before. If you haven't, make sure you check those out in the channel. But why don't we start, Alperen? All the emails that I get from people, something that I would like them to learn about is just kind of what all goes into building a golf course, because I know I've learned, even today, talking to you guys a little bit, but definitely, in the past discussions, that it's a lot. So if you can give us just kind of a summary of the steps that go into a golf course build.
Yeah, sure. So after we sign a contract, we send our TrackMan employee to get the drone image of the course. And we also get an overlay of how the course looks from top down so that we can mesh them on top of together, have an accurate representation of it. This process took around 2 days, and after we're done with that, we also go to every hole and take 20, 30 pictures of them to accurately recreate the course in Unity. Once we have that information, we lay down the vegetation, looking at the references, of course, place down the buildings, and try to get the feeling of the course. It's we look at it more like a painting of sorts, so to speak. So to put our artistic vision of it, also capture the authenticity of the course as much as we can.
Okay.
And that process, takes a long time, of course.
Give us an idea. What if it was from the day you signed the contract with Pebble Beach to the end of launching it? Just a rough idea. How long does it take?
Yeah. Would that be too long?
Well, actually, in layman's terms, you would say probably 4 to 5 weeks for a better course.
Okay.
That's the extent of it. 6 weeks is probably more close to what we had to do with Pebble.
Okay.
And the reason is primarily because of the detail, but also all the houses that are along the fairways on Pebble Beach. We had to custom build most of those.
That was a question, because I've been to Pebble Beach. I've told you guys that before. That, I think, is one of the most impressive things that I've noticed playing your VG2 version of Pebble, which obviously you guys are staring at VG3, and we're going to show you more here in just a second. But you are hand creating every building. That makes sense because it looks exactly like it does in real life.
Yeah,
And that's key.
we like detail.
Yeah, so that's those pictures you were talking about that are so key. So that's amazing. I appreciate that. And so basically, once you pull all that stuff in, the team is going through and they're doing all the fine tuning, the textures and all of that. I mean, at least you probably have a core of like collider and ball physics and everything that you get to use on every course. You don't change those per course, right?
Yeah, we don't. Especially for VG3 now, we have created 1,900 bespoke assets.
Wow.
Yeah, from scratch. So everything you see here right now is made from scratch.
Well, and I appreciate that, because not just buildings, but all of the trees and everything that you see, I mean, they all seem unique to the course.
Yes.
I mean, it's incredible.
So we have a huge asset library that is growing every day, and we can achieve a accuracy that was not possible before.
It's not plug and play by any means.
No.
I want to make sure everybody understands that, because it's just so important that it's never going to be real, right? But how close can we get it? And I think when you're custom building all those elements, that's huge. One quick thing, because you and I in conversation real quick before we started recording, you actually talk to the courses and get feedback. Yes. What you were saying. Yeah. So like Pebble Beach will say, "Hey, you got this bunker a little wrong," and then you're going to go fix it.
Of course, it's not like we do a version of it and we're done with it. It's more like we present something, they say if they're okay with it or not. We achieve the perfection they require and we want to achieve. Then we're done with the course.
That's awesome. Well, let's dive in a little bit. So, I mean, Jacob, bring the viewers into a little 30,000-foot overview, at least, of the bullet points of like the major changes they're going to see in VG3. 4K. Everyone's excited for that. Obviously, 4K is one of them. What about, all the different features, asset things that you get to change and play with inside of VG3?
Yeah, so at first, once you download this new TPS 10 that contains Virtual Golf 3, the first thing that the players will notice is, of course, the graphics quality. And there's only a few more elements to learn apart from that. A few things that we can go through once we start playing here. That pertains the lie indicator and the way that we display different grid overlays, the green grids, the pre-reads of the putts that you have on the greens. Those are some elements that we've adjusted, but all our efforts went into making this new engine. What you see in the first release here in TPS 10 is mostly graphics, like I said, but what excites me equally, or more than that even, is what potential lies in that engine going forward. So it's really, it's not something we can reveal today, but we will have some exciting stuff in the future as well, not only graphics-wise, but functionality that we can base on this new Unity upgrade that was done.
Even more teasers. I love it though. I mean, it's no different like when I talked about the camera and I/O, and we talked about the off-board processing, and who knows what comes in the future. But the fact that you have that vision for the software, it's not just done.
No.
There's a lot more shown. That's awesome. So TPS 10, that's released. What functions change in that, at least today, when these guys get to download this at the end of September is kind of the timeline that's given?
Yeah, so in TPS 10, the major upgrade is, of course, Virtual Ball 3. There is a couple of extra games in there as well. There's some functionality change in shot analysis. We've made adjustments to the I/O, so we will auto offset the bay tracer depending on where your ball is inside the little T area to make it even more accurate, and a number of other things that will help lives easier for our coaches and players out there. So that's what in TPS 10. With Virtual Ball 3, what you'll see here is mostly graphics, and on the lie indicator here, we've changed the way that the ball lies in the fairway. It still lies in the fairway, but the way that we tell you how the lie is, we've made adjustments to the lie indicator, not showing just a grid around the ball, but we now have actual degrees, how much uphill, downhill you are, side hill degrees, so you can actually get a better sense of how to adjust your aim line.
And we'll show that to you guys here. We're going to hit some balls. So that's fantastic. The one thing that you were playing around with that I want everybody to see on this first hole that we're staring at, you were adjusting, the time of day, showing it in the morning and everything. Will you show some demonstrations of that? That way we can actually see that in first person view here.
Yeah, so this is a very light version of what we plan to do in the future. But right now we've just added the ability for you to change time of day. We will be able to do that dynamically in the future. You can do that manually right here. So we load the course at a specific time of the day, but if you don't like that, if you like to play in a late afternoon round, you can change the length of the shadows. You can also make the fog a little lighter, but if you want to play pebble and really get the pebble sensation, once we reach hole number 7, you want that foggy distance.
Yeah, real life.
You can turn that up. And of course, you can make the dynamic clouds. They are now dynamic. They will change as you play. They kind of evolve a little bit. You can make it more or less cloudy.
Even though it's slow, the time is advancing while we play.
We sit here on hole number 1, time's advancing.
Exactly.
Time is advancing, yeah.
Yeah, and that's something we were wanting to be really transparent with everybody, because I asked the questions upon arrival. I mean, yeah, it's a beta. And they're, the 3D graphs is being implemented for final release. But I mean, looking at it in first person, it will really blow you away. It's shocking to know, like, hey, there's a major graphic element missing, because it still looks so amazing. Will you do a flyover, and we can get kind of a close-up flyover for the viewers?
So we can do a flyover to the green here.
Awesome.
But I can also do the whole flyover here. So it gives you a sensation. You can see the foggy distance there. Gives you a good impression of what it looks like. Makes you want to play golf, right?
It really does. Yeah, I mean, that fog, it's amazing how it just kind of through the trees and everything, it's so realistic.
It's good, yeah.
I'm noticing sand. We'll talk about that more. We can do some shots here in just a second.
Yep.
But all new sand textures, that's part of what you implemented. Yes. We're going to see some cool things here in a second, kind of the splash out of the sand. So let's go ahead and just jump to that. All right, so we found ourselves in the bunker of hole number 1 at Pebble Beach. And I do want you guys to know that, there's going to be a lot to this little section. So bear with us, but I don't want to miss all of the important things that are coming to VG3. One of them being this view. Why don't, Jacob, you explain kind of what's going on here that's new?
Yeah, so feedback from the market based on VG2 has been it's sometimes difficult to assess the high and low points on the greens. So we've actually redesigned the way that we display we have now added contour lines to your drone overview of the green, so you can easily understand where the low points and the high points are on the green. Red in the back of the green here is the highest point. Blue is the lowest point. So you see there's a little kind of runoff in the front of the green to help you assess that for your next approach.
I think that's fantastic. I mean, if I found myself in this position, that's what I would want us to be able to see. And you can just do it real quick from the menu.
Yeah, exactly.
It's easy.
Once you're happy with understanding how the green acts, you can zoom down to your lie here. And yeah, you can see all that we did to the sand texture. We've also added these nice little details that all golfers would appreciate. You can now also even see the little splash that the ball made in the bunker.
And we're going to do this shot for me here in just a second. Can you zoom in on this really quick? And the projector is amazing, don't get me wrong, but I'm just looking over here. You really have to appreciate the ball that rolled into the bunker, the line. And as he was mentioning, I mean, it's like we've all been in bunkers, and unless it's fresh in the morning, like the individual rake marks and everything, I just want to make sure everybody could see that. I mean, that's awesome.
And here you can also see the lie indicator that I was mentioning before.
Oh, yeah.
So you have a side hill lie of 1 degree and an uphill lie of 3 degrees. That helps you assess how you should adjust your next shot, right?
And that's all in. Now, was that was still implemented in VG2? I mean, your angle was still affecting the result of the shot, right?
Correct.
You just now have a better understanding of it.
Correct.
So you can plan for your shot. So I'm in the sand. I know it's just a little bit uphill. Let's see if I can pull this off. 14 yards. It's 9 feet uphill. So, I mean, I have to somehow flop this thing up and over, see if I can actually pull this off.
What a shot.
Whew.
I'll take that.
I'll take that too. I was nervous. So, I mean, having all the information just makes it more enjoyable too. You know, I mean, that's just fantastic. All right, let's jump out to another course and show you guys some more cool stuff. All right, I jumped ahead of myself just a little bit. Before leaving Pebble Beach and showing you guys other courses, we have to at least show you hole number 7. Famous hole number 7. When you're standing on this hole in real life, I mean, let me tell you, it's just a lot to take in. I was fortunate. It wasn't a crazy windy day when I was there, but it's loud. You can hear the ocean. The wind's blowing in your face. It was cool that they actually adjusted things. Jacob turned down the fog a little bit so we can actually see in the distance, because you can catch a beautiful sunny day at Pebble Beach, or you can be completely socked in. And not only could you experience that in real life, but you can do it in VG3. I thought that was really cool. But Jacob, explain some of the details. I know ocean and splash and everything has had a lot of changes. Explain that to everyone.
Yeah, so similar to the way that we rebuilt the entire asset library with trees and bushes and all that stuff, we've also rebuilt the way that our water effect is, and especially our shoreline water is going to be dramatically different. So not only the reflectivity of the water, creating that sense of reality, but also the way that the waves hit the shoreline. That's also been redesigned in a new way. Also adding sound effects that are new. All the sound effects of all the courses have also been redesigned from scratch. And now you can, I mean, turn down the sound here, but you would be able to hear the waves hit the shoreline with that particular sound. It's actually it's a massive amount of work that you've done. Maybe you can add some more detail to this.
Yeah, as opposed to the static sounds we had in VG2, we have created a new soundscape system that generates dynamic sounds. So we capture the audio from real life, and based on the levers we have decided, we create sounds around the camera or around our audio sources. So you could, hear birds flying around in front of you, or, just waves just coming to you.
And the timing of the waves as well.
Yes. Yeah. So when the wave actually crashes with the rock, you get that sound.
I love that. Yeah, you can almost like watch a wave coming up, and then it hits the rock. And yeah, I mean, just all that detail I think is fantastic. I mean, like we said, it might not be real life, making it the closest possible. And I think that's awesome, especially for someone who's never had an opportunity to experience it all. So check out this overhead view. We wanted to make sure you pointed this out. I mean, it's not just what you see on the tee box. It's all there. I mean, the details in the rocks. You can see like the coral reef, in the shallow spots. I mean, I think that all that's really important, and it just enhances the experience. You got to see the contour lines down there. You want to do a green view? Can you do a green view as well?
Yeah.
I'm going to hit a shot for everybody here, and so whether this will give me any help or not. Pretty difficult pin placement. I mean, it looks to be pretty fair. Yeah, I was going to say, it's not that bad. Hey, I got to give myself a little, challenge, feel at least. But you're right, that's not bad at all.
Could be worse.
All right, let's go ahead and see if we can knock a shot down there. 106 yards, 29 feet downhill.
felt decent if it's the right club.
Another one inside the gimme circle.
No, not that
close.
good. I like the
shot.
little ball reaction. I love it. I love it. I mean, it's just a special hole. I mean, I love that you guys took the time to put that detail into it. Let's jump out and show some more courses. All right, so we stepped out to the famous Pinehurst number 2. This is actually the second hole, and there are several things that I thought you guys would really like to see and notice that I noticed right away. I pay attention to detail, so I really appreciate these type of things. If you notice, this ball is actually on a little stubby tee. Well, it's because we have an iron selected. Rather than being on a big tall tee and you're hitting an iron, it actually will adjust that. And I just think that that's the level of detail that, you know, really makes things just feel real. On top of that, this was a perfect example to take a look at the shadows. And Alperen and I were having a little discussion that I think we'll share with you guys, that these shadows are all new. And the level of detail is just amazing because Pinehurst is known for its tall pine trees. And the shadows actually represent the pine trees. You can see little needles actually in the shadows, and that just makes it, once again, that level of, you know, realness is just very heightened. And Alperen, why don't you explain to them a little bit what you were explaining to me about how you're accomplishing this? Yeah.
So for BG3, we switched to a modern PBR rendering pipeline, and with the power of the modern GPUs, that allowed us to have more detailed shadows, plant more trees, you know, have more dense models to accurately portray the pine needles as you see on the shadows. And all of that is possible because we are smartly using everything the GPUs gives us. So this was not possible before, but now it is.
Yeah, and you know, when he's speaking on that, guys, a lot of people don't quite understand the amount of work that takes to build that efficiency. So you don't have to go out and buy a monstrous computer. Correct me if I'm wrong, but recommended spec on 4K, even running an I/O, can be a 4080, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, so I mean, if you talk to most modern gamers, I mean, that's kind of a benchmark GPU right now, but a 4090 is much more expensive. You don't need a 4090, and yet you're getting, you know, an amazing level of graphics and all this new detail. So I really appreciate you guys doing that. What I'd like to do is I'm going to get the ball, might take a couple shots, but we're going to get into the woods, and I want to show you guys the level of detail. I'm a guy that doesn't hit the fairway every time, so I confine myself over there, and when I'm punching out, I'd still like it to be as real as possible. Wait till you see this. All right, so you found yourself in the trees, but at least they're special, right? You're out at Pinehurst number 2. You're sitting here with a very unique punch shot. You're 137 yards away. You're standing there trying to soak it all in, and let me tell you, it's special. I mean, the way that the guys have developed the pine cones that you see on the ground, what is really standing out to me is the texture on the trees. So you never had that level of texture in VG2, and I don't want to discredit it. I mean, it was really nice, but it just has such a heightened level of realism. I just love that. All the way down to where when you look at the cart path, the sandy cart path has the tracks, you know, from the golf carts. So just really, really special stuff. And, you know, the bending of the trees and the wind has that real feel. It's not jaggedy and not, you know, I just want to say like unrealistic. But the one thing I want to point out to everybody that I've noticed as we've been sitting here playing and hitting some shots is the dynamic clouds. So not only, in my opinion, has TrackMan done a very good job with sky always, but the clouds are actually changing formation. So you're actually watching them over time, and I'll let Alperen kind of expand on that a little bit, but they're actually changing formation with the time of the day, and they've even gone as far as that lighting we were talking about is actually the proper lighting for your geolocation. So when you're at Pinehurst and it's the morning, let's say, the sun is rising and it's coming over a certain spot of the trees, it matches that spot. I think that's really cool. But expand on the dynamic clouds and lighting a little bit.
Yeah, so for the clouds, thanks with the modern GPUs, we are able to render volumetric clouds that interact with the real light that would interact in real life. And they form and they dissipate, and we have some trend settings on clouds. So in some days you will see clouds dissipating very fast. In other days you will see they will stay. So it's always dynamic. Every time you play a course, it will be new. It will be special.
Wow, I did not know that. So, I mean, it's a unique experience, and I can even see the clouds already changed up there.
That's just really cool. I mean, yeah, it's always going to be a unique round, whether you've played it once or whether you've played it 30 times. So I guess let's see if we can pull this off. 137 yards. It's like a tiger, the hardest shot. I doubt I'll be able to do it, but Elise will be able to show you guys what a punch looks like out here. Oh, I think I pushed it too far right. Well, you know, then at least you have an open shot from there. But that's the cost of going in the trees. At least it's one that you can experience in a nice, realistic way. So I really like to jump out now and show you guys one more course before moving on. And then we're actually going to see a little behind the scenes, which I'm really excited about. So let's jump out to the other course. All right, guys, so we can't move on without showing you the famous Lofoten Links. So located in Norway, it's just an incredible course that I thought really highlighted the enhancements of VG3. If you notice here in this drone overview, there's several things that I can appreciate. The depth in the ocean. You can actually see, you know, kind of the coral reef and the rocks and everything. I think that's really cool, the level of detail. You can actually see the new contour lines and heat map. And then Jacob, if you lower us down to the tee box, there's also a few things I'd like to point out here to you guys. We actually have divots out on the tee box. So you're not walking up to a perfect tee box every time. So I love that attention to detail. You got the ball teed up low because we had an iron selected. And you've got kind of the, weeds, grasses that are blowing in the wind. And then also on top of that, notice the rocks on the left where the sun is coming in are bright. Then you move over to the right side of the green and they're actually in a shadow. So just once again, level of detail that I love. And then Jacob, let's head down to the green to show them some new exciting features.
Let's do that.
All right, so we managed to hit down here on the green, and I really wanted to show you guys a level of detail that I think you're going to appreciate. Check out the little ball mark on the green. I mean, it represents what a ball mark really looks like. Once again, a level of detail. I love it. And then, Jacob, explain the new features that we're seeing. I'm seeing not only like a corridor style, but then I'm also seeing rolling balls, as far as the grid goes. I love all of this.
Yeah, so again, based on feedback from the market, we knew that we could do the grid a little bit better compared to VG2. So on VG3 courses, you'll see this new grid design that also helps you assess the, it helps you more to assess the way that the contours work on the green.
Sure.
With these rolling balls that move three-dimensionally. Before you could only get one or two directions on it. Now you can get a full three-dimensional view of the next putt. And in this putting mode, which is the aim putting, you also get the aim putt lights. We show the fast line and the slow line.
I love that. Yeah, especially if depends on how you like to hit putts. Some people hit them more firm. Some people rather, get them in there with a soft, slow entry. And you get to see that and practice it. Yeah. I can imagine some people using some on-course practice and throwing this on, and that'll be awesome. Yeah. Definitely. Let's see if we can actually get one down there. And like you said, you don't have to have that on if you don't want, which is nice. Got to work on my speed. All right, now, very exciting part. We're actually going to go behind the scenes. I'm going to show you guys a little bit of what it takes to get to this level of detail. Just when I thought that we weren't going to be able to see more behind the scenes, Fredrik is kind enough, as we've been wandering around the headquarters here, to take us into a whole nother area that, just looking around, looks very exciting. There's a lot of things going on. Fredrik, tell us where we're at.
Yeah, we're here at my playground I've been dreaming about for, longer than I can think.
How about it?
So this is our innovation lab where we get to do stuff that, for the future, going to test our accuracy and things like this. So we have a lot of different types of setups here. Some of this is mostly just to explore. Some of this is to do our accuracy benchmark. Okay. And then we're also doing some research. Maybe some of these things will come into products in the future. As you can hear, action.
I was just going to say,
action happening. So
hitting balls, I love it.
Take us around. I can show you a little bit around. I cannot show you everything.
Okay,
we are doing things under the hood here.
Yeah.
So, the first thing is what you see is a green stage, which is basically a green that you can tilt in any way you want. It can actually blend also. So
very cool product.
So we as you are familiar with the TrackMan 4, we have this performance potting where you basically can track not only how your ball speed, your starting direction, but the entire roll of the ball, and the skid phase, how your club delivery is, and also ability to read the green and so on. So we have some ideas of how we want to take this product even further. So this is going to be super fun. We just got this in, so it's
such an important part of the game. It doesn't get enough attention.
We think there's a lot that can be done to make it even more fun to practice putting. It is so essential. You're absolutely right.
That's awesome.
So if you go to the next one over here.
Yeah, a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, we have a few things going on here. A lot of stuff. So this is probably the biggest sim bay. This is not pretty in any way, but this is really where we are benchmarking the accuracy of both the club and the ball data we are recording, both with I/O and TrackMan 4. So you see an I/O in the ceiling and a TrackMan 4 on the back. So all these additional cameras you see spread around is what's called Qualisys system. And what we do is, for example, we put in these infrared markers on the club head, and that's being tracked by all the cameras with sub-millimeter accuracy. We can then determine at any point in time where is the club position and three-dimensional orientation.
Wow.
Now we compare that with what TrackMan is saying it is, and they need to align, of course. So It's not only a TrackMan truth, it's the absolute truth. So this is basically where we do our ground truths for the club delivery. And ball launch, of course, for the full ball flight when we have TrackMan 4 outdoors. Honestly, there's not a lot of second source that we can use there.
Well, I was going to say, a lot of people tell me, well, isn't TrackMan one of the benchmarks? And then you're benchmarking yourself. So I like to see that. That's good.
The only thing we do when we're outdoors is we take surveyors out now and then to do experiments with, the ball landed here. You have basically have spotters. You laser that in exactly where that is. Have to take into the elevation difference because that's... if you think something looks flat, there's nothing that's flat.
Absolutely.
So this is a very, very important part of the things we are doing is continuously benchmarking our accuracy, and we always strive to do things better than we did yesterday. So we keep pushing the boundaries here.
I love that. That's awesome. Thank you very much for taking us back here. I know that it's not the most public area, but I think that you guys are probably enjoying it as much as I am. Just kind of see what really goes on behind the scenes and all the work that's being put in. Whether you're a current user or one that's looking, just know that it's getting taken to that level. So thank you very much. Well, guys, good morning from Denmark. I'm about ready to head back to the States. I hope you all enjoyed that video as much as I did. Everyone from TrackMan, really just treated me like family. I obviously really appreciated the invite, but it was just so enjoyable to sit down with Klaus and Fredrik, see behind the scenes. I hope everyone enjoyed that as much as I did. Some really neat things on the horizon at TrackMan Golf. So stay tuned for a lot more. We'll definitely be giving you guys a full first look, a preview of Virtual Golf 3 in the studio, so stay tuned for that. Make sure you comment below any questions that you have, things that you'd like to see. As always, I appreciate you guys watching. Stay tuned. There'll be a lot more coming soon.